The GLE is the most popular Mercedes-Benz on sale in the United States. This is a mid-sized luxury SUV that's right-sized, right-priced. Well, right-priced for some of us, not for all of us. But if you've got the cash for a lease or a finance or an outright purchase, this vehicle for 2024 offers new technology, some new engines and powertrains, and basically the same of what you've come to expect from Mercedes. A lot of excellence. Is everything perfect? Of course not. I'll show you the ins and outs of this car and we'll get to it. The GLE is Mercedes' bread and butter. If you want an SUV, you can get it in any way you want. Almost any type of powertrain and 2 different body styles. I reviewed the GLE Coupe, so check out that review. But this GLE, the conventional SUV, is the most popular, and there's so many ways to order one. 6 powertrain choices. The 350 is the most popular, and it now gets a mild hybrid to assist that 2-liter turbo inline-4. That is new. The 450, this one, I think it is the sweetheart of the lineup. Makes a lot of power and it puts up decent fuel economy as well. The 450e is the plug-in hybrid version that borrows mechanicals from the 350. It's got a 23 kilowatt-hour electric battery inside of it. We're not really sure what the electric range is or the MPGe at this point, but it will be available soon. And now the really fun engines. The 580 has a 4-liter turbocharged V8, also a hybrid, and if you want the 53, that's an AMG model, that one has a supercharged electric supercharger bolted on top of this inline-6, so it goes even quicker and it does not really save you fuel at all. It's an AMG. And if you really want to burn gas and blow your savings, you get the AMG GLE 63S. That V8 engine, hand-built in Alphalterbach, Germany. It hasn't been on sale for a couple years now due to the part shortages and everything going on with COVID. Now it's back. I really would recommend checking that one out. And if you can't afford it, this will have to do. Twilight Blue. That's the color you're seeing here. It's brand new for 2024. And combined with these optional 21s and the brown leather inside, this is a great spec because a lot of the GLEs on dealer lots are just blacks and grays. Very boring. So do yourself a favor, spend a little extra money, get the AMG line, get those perforated front brakes, get the bigger tires, get the nice grille effect on the front, get all these new Mercedes star emblems, that's new for 2024, along with a slightly restyled lower grille, newer headlights, and also new taillights out back. They all have like kind of a dashed LED effect instead of being one continuous line. I like that. I actually think the rear does look better than the front or the side. It's a bit frumpy from where I'm standing, from behind, it's actually really muscular. The fenders really swell out and the tires are massive. I don't think this is quite as aggressive as a BMW X5, not as handsome as a Porsche Cayenne, but guess what? It combines a lot of different elements from Mercedes brands, and I do think it looks a heck of a lot better than the EQ SUVs that Mercedes is pushing. Definitely get one of these before you get one of those. There's 33 cubic feet of space behind the second row, and when that's folded, 75. Decent space, not earth-shattering. And if you get the optional third row, which this one does not have, Mercedes doesn't want to tell you how much little space there is, so don't order that. It all comes down to how you specify the car. Brown Nappa leather, this walnut wood, black MB-Tex dash. This is the way to make a GLE from boring and pedestrian, the type of car that everyone drives in your nice neighborhood, to something truly special. Every GLE comes with a rectilinear design theme that's very different from the oval-looking features you'll find in other Mercedes models. It's also not a full screen. These are 2 12.3-inch screens. One of them is a touchscreen, and there's still enough physical controls and a touchpad to make things easier. The steering wheel is certainly more complex, and Mercedes-Benz makes it very difficult to adjust. Just look at how many buttons there are. But when you really get used to it, all the configurations and all of the quality you can find. Even the wood on this drawer, it feels like a high-end piece of furniture. The GLE in this spec is definitely a magnificent car. If you pay for it, Mercedes ups the ante like nothing else. Heated armrests here and here. There's perfume, because we all like to smell good. This goes in the glove box, and you can activate it into one of 3 settings on the touchscreen for the climate controls. In addition to the climate, there's an ionization that'll turn out all the terrible particulates in the air. Would have been really wonderful to have this GLE during all the Canadian wildfires, but alas, I'm still enjoying these massaging seats, the seat kinetics that automatically shift them while I'm driving to reduce fatigue, If you can imagine a feature, any feature at all, Mercedes-Benz probably has already made it. There's a lot of headroom and a lot of legroom in the back of a GLE because even though it comes with an optional third row, it's not really meant to have one. So it's optimized for this row. And you can't get captain chairs like you can in other Mercedes models like the GLS. That's one size up. But if you get a GLE, you're getting a lot of comfort, and you do have to pay more for 4-zone climate, for side shades, for heated rear seats, because this still is a Benz. The 2024 model uses an updated version of MBUX. That's the touchscreen infotainment that Mercedes debuted a few years ago. And it's not until you go into the settings and see all the menus that you realize they're simpler. There's less sub-menus, less clutter. If you've paid for all the right options, you'll get all the collision avoidance. You'll get automatic lane change assist, the semi-steering, semi-automated driving that you can find. It is not a hands-free system. Mercedes has yet to introduce that. But check out the cameras. The 360 cameras are actually really good at perspective control. It almost looks like I'm viewing this from the outside. And if you're using the off-road feature, not only can you see all this information at a glance, if you tap this button, you can see the front camera, activate it, and it will project a version of the lower part of the car, similar to what Land Rover does, to approximate what's directly underneath the front bumper. Going into the comfort settings, well, you'll find so many different massaging. You'll find so many different ways to adjust your seat, including where the heat is distributed, all of the different ambient lighting, colors, and effects. And what's nice is that you can still use a touchpad with shortcut buttons, and all the climate controls are below the touchscreen, so not everything is within here. Don't buy the 350, 450 and above when you're buying a GLE. Because all the extra power, it's not just about numbers and bragging, because people who drive a GLE are not bragging unless they have an AMG. But in the 450, you just have considerably more power. It's so much smoother than the 4-cylinder. It's an inline-six, for goodness sake. I mean, it's just inherently smooth. Even more smooth than Mercedes' past V6s. It's an all-new design. It's going to stick around for quite a while. And with this turbocharger, and the 9-speed the way it's tuned, you're gonna appreciate it when you got your family here, or if you're towing a small boat. That extra power is worth the premium. Don't be confused, because this is not a very sporty experience. Acceleration is good, but it's not earth-shattering, and throttle tip-in, really the gear shift responses, they're a bit lazy, because this is just not meant to be the racy Mercedes. It'll move and hustle when you're asking it to, but it doesn't really want to do that. It's just a power to have in reserve. And you got to keep it in check. You're supposed to be relaxed. And on the highway especially, that's all that this car is. It's just quiet. You have to pay a little extra for the sound deadening, which is really ridiculous in a car that bases at 70 grand for the 450. But after you priced and actually had your car delivered, you'll appreciate having more options. You'll appreciate the nicer Napa leather seats if you order those. Spending a bit more money on the GLE does afford you a more premium interior. The 350 is just fine. I'm sure it is. I've driven it. But if you really want the luxury car experience, especially just that feeling of just wafting down the road, almost like a Rolls Royce, get a 450 with the Airmatic air suspension, because you'll be in for a very pleasant soft ride. What's interesting to me is that this GLE has extremely wide rear tires, 315 millimeters, 21 inches in diameter, and they're staggered. Yet, there's nothing that sporty about the driving experience, even when you put it in sport. It's slightly sharper in response, but there's still a lot of float, and a lot of the car is just telling you, hey, back off a bit. I want to relax. The limits are pretty high, but you just don't want to approach them. If you want to, you get the GLE 53 that adds an electric supercharger on top of this turbocharged inline-six for even more boost. Or you get the GLE 63S, which has over 600 horsepower. I was just in one of those, an entirely different animal altogether. But I'd say the GLE's core mission is just to get you and 3 other people, perhaps a few more if you have the optional third row, get them to the destination comfortable, arriving in class. That's really all the GLE cares about. It's a Mercedes at heart. Because even with these paddle shifters, there's nothing going on here. So don't fool yourself. Just relax, drop it down, and just steer lightly. That's it. The brakes are large. They feel okay. A bit spongy, but you wanted a luxury Mercedes, that's what you're gonna get. The 2024 Mercedes-Benz GLE starts at $62,550. The GLE 450 that I'm driving bases at $69,500, and with all the options, almost all of them, $88,940 with destination. You can go much, much higher, well past $120,000 if you're ordering AMG models. But no matter how expensive or how affordable you get, there's a lot of competitors. The BMW X5, Audi Q7, Volvo XC90, Genesis GV80, and a host of other cars, all vying for your pocketbook. I have it much like the GLE, not in its base 4-cylinder form. I don't think that engine's that great. The car is actually kind of frumpy looking, not great looking for a Mercedes-Benz. But in this 450 trim, and the more I drive it, in this spec, the way it's colored, all of the options, I'm really convinced that this is a stellar vehicle. So if you get a GLE, spec it the right way. Inline-6, good performance, a lot of the good tech options inside, and nothing is overwhelming. That's the also big takeaway here. A lot of the new Mercedes products have giant hyperscreens, that's what they actually call it, and they're very, very complex. And without full electrification at this point, the mild hybrid setup delivers a lot of performance and actual real-world efficiency. It's very pricey, so you should watch your options. It's not perfect, but this is a very solid vehicle and very much the vehicle I'm expecting Mercedes-Benz to build. What do you think? Subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel and stay tuned. We've got a lot more videos, so stick around and we'll see you next time.